I decided, no, I'm going to dream bigger. And so that's when I said, you know what? I want to add this piece to my business. It's not separate. I want to add this piece to my business and raise $20,000 to support women from the Global South in the same kind of work I do in my business.
Because my guest, a client of mine, Tasneem Damji, is an academic career coach and has found a way in a very relatively short period of time to blend the worlds of her skill set, which is academic career coaching and essay writing, along with a deep passion of hers, which is to support women in the Global South.
$550 gets a student in North America to do an assessment to identify their interests and have a coaching call with me to help them understand their interests and plan their next steps. I would do the same thing for $550, but not charge the woman in the Global South. I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that kind of work if I wasn't able to pay my bills, pay myself, and all the things that I need money for. I think that was the motivation to keep focused on that. And I guess it was when I stopped thinking about the money, if I really think about it. People are looking for ways to make a meaningful difference. And so people who are aligned to the value of higher education, quality education, and young women getting the support, this is such a great way for them to feel like they are doing something really meaningful.
I'd love for you to share some of the things that you've learned over the last 2 years that has allowed you to really come into this place of owning your category of one.
Yeah, no, this is so good to reflect on it, especially as we're ending our time together formally. One of the lessons I learned is...
So you're someone who has always wanted to do good in your business. You have a deep desire to serve, to create impact, and create real win-win-win scenarios through your work. Today's episode is going to be one that you want to listen into because my guest, a client of mine, Tasneem Damji, is an academic career coach and has found a way in a very relatively short period of time to blend the worlds of her skill set, which is academic career coaching and essay writing, along with a deep passion of hers, which is to support women in the Global South. And so today's episode, I really wanted to highlight this story and this conversation because I know most people listening are people who, if they could, they'd want to create more impact through their business. They'd want to create bigger ripple effects through their work. And so today's conversation will hopefully inspire you to think about how you might be able to do that for yourself. So Tasneem, welcome to the Soulful CEO podcast. It's so good to have you on here. We've been talking about doing this for a while. I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I think this is the perfect time to do this.
Yeah, so good. Why don't we start a little bit with your, like I mentioned in the intro, you found a way to combine your skills, your gifts, your passion, and your purpose into a business model that allows you to generate great income, allows you to support women who may not be able to have access to your services otherwise, and actually gives your community a way to give back and contribute to a cause that they really feel good about. So can you give us all a little bit of context on all of those things? And then we're going to talk about how you've put them together inside of your business.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you mentioned it that way because it really is a combination of things. I started my business really fully a couple of years ago, like full on into the business to support high school students and their families in applying to universities. It's getting a lot more competitive nowadays. Students are really busy, families are really busy, and so I'm there to really support them in taking off a lot of the pressure that comes with applying to universities and applying with intention. And so earlier you mentioned essay writing. So essay writing is a big component of that in a student telling their story to a university. And with that, I also was then connected with a nonprofit organization that I had volunteered with for a decade or so, and they connected with me and asked me if I'd like to work with them on a part-time basis. And they provide scholarships to young women in the global south, countries that are affected by war and poverty, to pursue higher education. But something that was missing for them was providing that ongoing support while they are in university. They provide the scholarship and providing that support. So I started doing that, speaking to women doing bachelor's degrees, master's, PhDs in Tajikistan, Pakistan, Lebanon, from Syria, from different parts of the global south. And to be honest, that came at a time actually when I was just starting full on in the business and needed some stability and income. It doesn't come right away. And I really took that on. I loved the organization, but originally I took that on as some kind of stability and income. And over time, as I started doing that work, I realized that this is actually fueling something that I've been thinking about for a long time. I've worked and lived abroad for many years and felt that disconnect living in Canada. And so over time, I didn't see it as this stability and income anymore, but as I coached these women, I saw how transformational this coaching could be and how connected it is to my business in North America. A student who's trying to figure out what they want to study, what they're interested in, trying to be their own person and not be pressured by expectations that come out of them. Whether they're in Canada or they're in Lebanon or Tajikistan, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And the coaching is very similar. I just get to bring a lot of my lived experience and cross-cultural experience living abroad for so many years into that. So they're very connected, but came about in ways that I didn't expect.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it would be helpful to hear the evolution because when you and I started working together 2 years ago, I remember our VIP day and we were in a co-working like office space and you were talking about this part and how you had a real passion for this work. And I remember being there with you and really looking at it and you were talking about supporting these women who were refugees or didn't have the ability to pay for some of these services. And at that time, that's one of the important factors of your ideal client is that they have the ability to pay. Unless you want to go the route of working with government agencies or like the organization that you now work with, it's going to be challenging. So we actually decided to park that. I remember saying, let's put it in the parking lot. Let's not take it off the table, but put it in the parking lot. And then now we're 2 years later. You've had 2 years under your belt of supporting families who are here. Actually, it has been in other places, but families through the college application process. And it wasn't until about, I don't know, what was it, 6 weeks ago almost, that you were like, actually, I think I can see how to create this win 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 now. So
Yeah.
take us into that journey around how we go from not knowing how to bridge the gap to now having a very clear pathway to this being a business model for you.
Yeah, you said told the journey very well because I remember in that VIP day where I did come to you saying I really need to focus because I have so many ideas, so many things I want to do. And you really helped me focus on that piece that's going to allow me to earn an income in my
Mhm.
business, right? And that was through paid clients in North America supporting students with their university applications. And I remember when we put that other piece into the parking lot, and I just thought, oh God, oh, when am I going to get there? Will I get there? I
Mhm.
don't know. And over the past almost 2 years, I was able to focus because I knew that I wouldn't be able to do that kind of work if I wasn't able to pay my bills, pay myself, and all the things that I need money for. And I think that was the motivation to keep
Mhm.
focused on that. And I guess it was when I stopped thinking about the money, if I really
Mhm.
think about it. The story I just told about how I took on that coaching part time position because there was going to be some stability in income. For the first little while, that's all I saw it as. And I really just saw it as, when I would talk to these women in these countries, as just part of my job. When I took that off the table, I probably took it off the table maybe a year or so later, when I took off the money part off the table, because I had made the most income in a month that month. I remember it was like November 2025. So about a year after we had our VIP day. And so that felt really good. And I think I just kind of took that piece off the table. Then I was able to be more open to what I was learning from that experience. And I was learning that this is something really important. I was learning that I am the right person to do this. These are my skills. These are my gifts. This is my passion. And this is what I want to do. And so then, you're right, it was only about 6 weeks ago. I think it came when in our program you gave us a challenge called the Dream Out Loud Challenge. And you said, dream something really big and name it and work on it. And I struggled a little bit. I was like, what could I dream? There could be many dreams out there, right? And I did first start with my paid income kind of generating business, which is the North American university application part of the business. But I decided, no, I'm going to dream bigger. And so that's when I said, you know what? I want to add this piece to my business. It's not separate. I want to add this piece to my business and raise $20,000 to support women from the global south in the same kind of work I do in my business. And so that's where that all came to. But it was a process to get there.
Yeah, totally. There's so much in what you just shared that I think is important to reflect back. Is the first thing is that you did was you got stability in your income. And so I think that's one of the mistakes a lot of people make, is that they don't have that stability. And then because a lot of the people in my world and community are so heart-centered and impact driven, they just want to do that first. But the challenge of that is like, we can't give from a foundation that isn't there. So you built that foundation so that you can support yourself, your family, pay your bills. And then, like I always talk about it as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Once our basic needs are taken care of, then we can start really going after purpose, impact, things like that. And so that progression allows you, and it was interesting because you didn't even need a new opportunity to come across your plate. You were just able to see an opportunity that you already had in a different light, because you had that financial foundation kind of care of. So I just think that's really an important piece for people. And then the second piece I want to highlight around this is the Dream Out Loud Challenge. And I just love this because this is really the purpose. I was actually having a conversation with another client of mine, and we're going into strategic planning. And she's, I have trouble with these big blue sky things. She's very operational, and she's very like, I just want the linear roadmap to get it done. And I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to explain to her the importance of letting go of the how and actually just putting this moonshot goal out there, because $20,000 to just get, you didn't have a how you were going to do it at this point. You were just like, I'm going to put it out there and see what happens. And can you tell us a little bit about what has happened since then, since putting it out there in that way?
Yeah. So that kind of forced me to, when you name it out loud to a group of people, you're okay, I got to do something with this. And what I ended up doing was reaching out to my network. And I've not finished at all. I'm just getting started. But I realized that there are people that I know who value education, who value, maybe they have daughters themselves, or maybe there are lots of people I know that I can connect with. And so I reached out to a few of them and said, I'd love to tell you about something I'm doing. And do you have time to meet? And one of them actually responded and said, I'd love to meet. And I had said, let's go out for coffee. And she said, why don't you come over to my place? And so I did. And I told her about what I want to do, about what this Dream Out Loud challenge was. I didn't say Dream Out Loud, but what this was. And it just so happened to be when I met her, two college-age kids were at home, and one of their friends who just graduated from college was at home. And so we all sat and had breakfast, and I told all of them about this. And then I said, I'll send you, I had come up with a one-pager. I didn't know if she was going to donate or what, but I said, I'd love to send this to you. You can read more about it, and you can share it with people that you know that might be interested. And a couple weeks later, I see in my bank account $1,500 from her. And I was like, I thought she would donate, but not that much. And I was really impressed. I've had someone else, actually, before I said this out loud, he kind of knew the work that I'm doing, gave me $1,000. So I have about $2,500 right now out of the $2,000. And I reached out to more people now. And so that's really exciting. And I'm using the money right now or I will be. I just finished talking to one of the alumni of the program that I work with. And she's in Syria. And she was telling me about someone who's come to her, a colleague's daughter who is just finishing high school in Syria and not sure what to do next. And I said, you know what? I have some funding. I can support her in this. And I was able to be very clear about what I can offer her and how much money I have to support her in that. So,
Wow.
Yeah, really exciting.
What a cool, I can only imagine how good that feels for you to be like, I have this fund that I'd love to support this person with. And I think let's talk about the business model side of it now, because we talked about, is this a nonprofit? Is this not? And I think what's really cool about the way that you've done this is you're supporting these women who can't pay for these services on their own, but you're also getting paid yourself in the process, the same amount that you would get paid if a family from North America was to hire you. So it really is this win-win. And then we'll get you to talk about the win for the donors too, because you about that, but this win-win scenario. So tell us a little bit about how you've set up the business model here for it to be that exchange in that way.
Yeah, I would call it, and I'm still kind of new and figuring things out, but I would call it a social enterprise. And the model looks like this, where I still work with students in North America who pay me for the services that I provide. The work I do with the women in the Global South and the donations I get, I will be using that same amount of money. So, for example, $550 gets a student in North America to do an assessment to identify their interests and have a coaching call with me to help them understand their interests and plan their next steps. I would do the same thing for $550, but not charge the woman in the Global South, but I would, through the donation, get that same amount of money to do the same thing. So I separate the funds that way, but the money still does come back to me because I'm providing the same service.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And when you sent a screenshot in our group chat the other day around what this donor had to say about her contribution, can you share with us what she said when she donated?
Yeah, when she donated, I wrote back and said, thank you for your generosity. And she wrote back saying something to the effect of thanking me for letting her be a tiny part in this experience. And I have fundraised before for other things and often find people are looking for ways to make a meaningful difference. And this is very specific. And so people who are aligned to the value of higher education, quality education, and young women getting the support, this is such a great way. So this is that third win for them to feel like they are doing something really meaningful.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what was really interesting is when we started to talk about this as another kind of revenue stream or arm of your business, now it opened up so many more people. Like really everybody, like honestly, everybody is now a potential ideal client. if they're aligned with these values, right? That would probably be it. They'd have to align with higher education, supporting women, all of these things. That's the case, then they're your ideal client. Where before, one of the challenges we were running into, especially finding clients online and things like that, was like, how do you know if someone's a parent of a grade 11 and 12
Yeah.
student? Because now that's that, like, we're like, okay, that's your ideal client, the parent. And so it really opens up the world of possibility for you. And what I love about this is it's now not just about a service. It's about being part of, and this is what your donor said, being a tiny part of something bigger. And when we can create these like values driven businesses that people can see themselves in, that essentially is like a movement that you're creating around, this is where things really start to take off and it feels good on all fronts. And you start to get people who just like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. So I'm so excited to see where this goes. And if you can, I'd love for you to share one of the things that I always reflect back to you is you're a beautiful storyteller. I would love for you to share a story about like one of the women that come to mind for you that either you've supported or are wanting to support so people can really wrap their heads around what it is that you're doing and the impact that their donation, if they choose to donate, would have on these women.
Yeah, I can do a whole podcast on this,
I know,
right?
that's why I'm like, one
So
story.
I do have the one story. So there, I heard about a woman from Afghanistan, Mariam, and she is a human rights advocate specifically for women in Afghanistan. And in 2021, when the Taliban took over, she needed to flee the country. She was under a lot of threat, her and her family. So she actually landed in Burnaby in Canada, in Vancouver. And through another partnership that I have, I learned about her and I started coaching her. And one of the things that she really wanted to do was do a master's in public policy at Simon Fraser University. And so I helped her with that application. And what was really interesting is that she is an older woman. She's probably in her 40s and has a lot of experience. And now she needed to write like a 500-word essay in the application about her experience and why she wants to do this program. And so you can imagine 500 words from years of experience,
I know I can
right?
barely get like an Instagram caption about a silly topic, right? And then it's like, yeah.
Exactly. And for someone for whom English is not their first language and their second and maybe not even third, even more of a struggle. And I worked with her on that, worked with her on putting together that essay, identifying the story to tell by understanding what is the university looking for, what is the program about, and picking the right story and writing it up. And she did get in. And just a few weeks ago, I got to talk to her, and she had with her master's in
Wow.
public policy from Simon Fraser University. And I am so excited for what she's going to do with that. She already had so much experience, but that credential is just going to add more depth and more recognition to who she is. And so that's what a donation can do.
Wow. Yeah, it's so incredible. And as you said, there's two layers to this is that there's two layers to the work that you do, getting these women into higher education. So actually getting their applications seen, breaking through the noise of all the other applications that get submitted. And then there's the part around you actually support these women while they're in university, because getting in is one thing, but to graduate with a master's in like higher education that's not in your first language, it's a challenge for anybody. And so that is also part of your work, correct? Where you can actually support these women through their higher education journey so that they're fully supported.
Yeah, definitely. Especially when someone, it doesn't even matter where they are in the world, but when someone is about to finish, let's say, their bachelor's degree and they're thinking about their next steps. What do I do next? And the default usually is, okay, I need to do a master's now. And that's not always the case. And so I will coach them through that process and think about and also share experiences from other students I've had, from my own experience. And that could mean having a conversation about How maybe not do a master's right away, but maybe get some experience. And how do you find that experience?
Hmm.
Or a student who's doing her bachelor's degree or master's degree and needs to come up with a thesis topic. I can
Right.
work with them on that. Let's talk about, okay, what does a thesis topic need? It needs to be something that you can do for a good amount of time. It needs to be something personal that can impact your community. And I can help them brainstorm. It's really a sounding board for
Hmm.
these women who don't have that otherwise. And I've seen that happen through all my conversations with these women in different ways.
Yeah, totally. That's fantastic. So I think now that we've kind of heard a little bit about the journey, so where we started with putting this idea in the parking lot, so now it's being like this Dream Out Loud challenge. You're already getting donations. You're already working with these women. It's on their way. For anyone that's listening, I'd love for you to share some of the things that you've learned over the last 2 years that has allowed you to really come into this place of owning your category of one. And I think one part I just want you to pull out, if you can, is again, back in our VIP day 2 years ago, we were talking about the college applications. You were like, I don't want to just do college applications. That's not what I want to be known for. And then
Yeah.
the irony around it is, as you're coming to the end of your time inside of the Legacy Builders Mastermind and our work together, it's like this crazy full circle moment where the two offerings you now have are the UBC college applications for your students in North America, and then this support with the women in the global South. So it's like kind of ironic, but we're here.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about what you've learned along the way, the decisions you had to make to get to this really clear spot that truly puts you in this category of one for both offers in your business.
Yeah, no, this is so good to reflect on it, especially as we're ending our time together formally. One of the lessons I learned is to
Mhm.
experiment with things and see what clicks and what doesn't. And so, yes, I've come full circle from I'm not the essay person, I'm not just college applications, to I just want to work on the essays for the University of British Columbia application. Just one specific. It is
I know.
so narrow now, right?
I
Gosh,
tried to get you to do that 2 years ago. You would have been like, absolutely not.
exactly. Like I'm just so narrow, but it's because I had to experiment with quite a few, like doing that fuller college application process
Mhm.
with students. And I realized actually, while I can do it, I didn't like it as much. And while it was having an impact on the students, I didn't like it. I think what happened then was then when I looked at this as an experiment, I could notice signs that were coming to me instead of seeing things in a very narrow way. And so now, with that experimentation, I can now see the essays for UBC application in a very different light. It's not
Yeah.
just essays. So I think the big lesson I learned is to try things out and to not just try it for a month, try it for longer and be open to what that could teach you. Okay, so maybe
Hmm.
it didn't result in lots of clients, right?
Hmm.
Maybe it didn't result in this a big framework that I wanted to create, but it led into so many things, right? It led me to really focus and narrow in and to add this global south piece to it. And now these two things feel really doable together.
Yeah.
And so if there's just one lesson, it would be to experiment with it and be open to other ways of doing things.
Yeah. And I think an important thing to highlight around that with the UBC application specifically, because that can sound random if you don't know who Tasneem is and what her background is. But Tasneem, before in another lifetime, UBC application, that was part of her, that was a job that she
Yeah.
held. So you've read thousands probably of applications at this point. And so you have this lived experience. And this is one of the things with your category of one that I'm always talking about is we all already have a category of one baked in. It's not like we're finding something, we're excavating what that is based on what our lived experiences are. And
Mhm.
then the other thing that so that's your experience. And then a natural gift you have is storytelling. And the UBC applications just happen to be in a storytelling format. Like it's out of all the college applications out there, it's that really leans into, actually, I'd love to just rant. This is super random, but can you share one of the questions on one of the essays? Because I think it's just so funny.
Yeah. So the question is, what is important to you and why?
Yeah. And when
In
Tasneem told me that,
1,500 characters.
yeah, when Tasneem told me that, I was like, I wouldn't be able to answer that question, let alone be like a 17-year-old trying to answer that on my own.
Mhm.
Absolutely not. So when
Yeah.
you said that to me, I was like, it's so obvious why they need your support. And it just brings your skill set and your gifts. You know exactly what UBC is looking for. You have this innate ability to tell stories in a concise and like way. And it's bringing all of those pieces together. And I think that's why, based on what you've shared with me, when you're like, it's not just college applications, it's something bigger. Over the last 2 years, you've been able to see it differently because you understand that these essays are actually a way to help these teens see what they bring to the table, build confidence, tell their story, which, yeah, the first application of it is through these university applications, but that's going to serve them for years to come. And we even talked about that a little while back of like, we're not leading with this, but it's almost like this rite of passage
Mm.
that you're supporting these teams with, which is super cool. And I just like love sharing that because when we're connected to the bigger why, the big idea in our work, it can be the same work, but it can feel so, so different.
Yeah, you said it exactly perfectly. It's really a culmination of all of what I've wanted to do, I think, for a long time.
Yeah. I'm
Yep.
so excited for you, proud of you. We've
Thank
got a
you.
little bit of time left in Legacy Builders, but it has been such a privilege to support you in bringing this work to the world and to build a foundation for your business. And I just can't wait to see where you go from here. And I'd love for people who have been listening to have an opportunity to be a part of what you're doing. So, can you share with us a little bit about how people can get involved and how they can donate if they like?
Yeah, so I created a donation link that people can go to and donate. And I'm just looking at it here. I just wrote it down.
We'll link it in the show notes.
Link it
So
in the
yeah,
show notes
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
brand new for me because I just did
yeah.
it yesterday. But that's a place where you can donate. You can also share it with people that you know that you think might be interested because sharing is just as important
Yeah.
as contributing. And then you can also find me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I write a lot about what I do. And I'm going to be doing a lot more writing about the work in the Global South.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll link your LinkedIn, the link to donate, and yeah, share this episode with anyone that you think might be interested in learning more about what Tasneem is up to.
Mhm.
What I love about how you set it up is it's any size of donation. Anything helps. And I'll be tracking and watching this $20,000, like the little temperature thing I did.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to get there. So I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I know I'm just excited to continue this work now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for being on the show. And we'll see everyone else in the next episode.
Thank you.